Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of The Journey. This episode is going to be entitled Building a Brand. It's supposed to expand from last week's episode on starting a brand. So the first one is that I've done this week to summarize is I've started to build my Instagram graphics. I'm starting to go into the color schemes, the fonts, kind of how I want to roll out each week, each theme each week, and how I want to represent it on Instagram. So that took up a big chunk of my time. And the last thing I want to discuss is I started to brainstorm new blog ideas. So we'll be writing a blog a week to contribute to some new content on the website and through LinkedIn as well as I edited my first 2 episodes of my journey. So I had a lot of lessons learned. So we'll try a couple new techniques on this episode to see, if I can start to build kind of a niche there, or just increase my learning. So this week I dug more into my concept of how I want to build my Instagram account for Work Lessons 101. So I've been following quite a few Instagram accounts on my personal Instagram just to kind of get an idea of what are some of the more popular business sites out there. I haven't actually found Instagram accounts that really target the work environment of the corporate world. Many of them are either in fashion, makeup, kind of target more entrepreneurs more so than say employees in a corporation or young professionals that want to enter the corporate world. They're definitely more targeted towards building your own business, and so forth and so on. But the one thing I have learned from them is that they brand very well. When I see their info, if it comes up in my just general feed on Instagram, because I have liked similar sites, you can really see the companies or the young entrepreneurs who really put the time into their Instagram accounts through color schemes, fonts, just very consistent in how they present their infographics essentially. So I'll throw a couple up on the screen here to show you. So my first one that I came across that I really liked was the Female Hustler. They essentially use 3 separate backdrops. One's a graphic of some form of fashion, and the other 2 is just pink or black, and then they alternate the fonts. Have the exact same font on each one. They have their Instagram title block on each one of their graphics. But very cheap, like very like smooth. You can see it. Their brand is very bang on. Their label's a simple F, and they've just changed actually this past week to a female wearing sunglasses. Again, very simple, but very professional looking, and definitely kind of links to their brand. The other ones are a little bit more the entrepreneur sites. One of them is Drive Towards Success. They essentially just alternate a black info background to a white info background and back and forth, which is a common one I've seen in many of them. Some of the other ones are Young Hustlers or Business to Success, where they tend to use yellow as a main font with a black backdrop and kind of a cartoon infographic look to them. Of course, their content's quite good. A lot of these sites obviously interchange because since I've started following a lot of them, they started, the same type of content kept coming up on them. But I have to admit, the Female Hustler and the Young Hustler sites have a lot of original content on them. And they definitely deserve credit because they've clearly put a great deal of time into their brand. So that really helped me kind of think about how do I want to build my brand. And as I discussed last week, my infographic that I was going to use for Instagram and then put on my front page of my website got my feedback from my audience was that it was a little dated. It didn't quite capture the audience that you're going for. So I evolved it into the current one, which is a lecture hall auditorium, which is Work Lessons 101, what they don't teach in school, which kind of targets the message behind my whole book and behind my business is to try to help aspiring professionals enter the work environment, especially the corporate world. So the next one is colors, fonts. So I played with a lot of fonts. I'll kind of get into fonts a little bit later. Essentially, on Adobe Spark, I picked Park Life as my big one, just because it was something I just tended to gravitate to. It was just really an easy font to establish, essentially. So that's kind of a bit about that. But my biggest thing is the color scheme and how I wanted to split up week to week. So I had decided earlier, a couple weeks ago, when I kind of started playing with all of this, I wanted to have every week have a theme from my book. So for the week, so my Monday will have the intro to the theme, and then two Instagrams content wise, and then I'll probably introduce my blog Tuesday morning, along with some more Instagram content, and then go through the week and obviously do my YouTube channels. But I wanted to summarize that week with a certain one theme to be able to be split. So I was decided for my first is that blue was always going to be my choice. Blue and white were always going to be my main colors for the company. Blue being my favorite color, and just the welcoming engagement of blue. I just thought it was an easy choice. So I saw it going blue, white, or blue, slightly gray, as you can see on the screen right now with the two alternate graphics. And then my following week, the second week, which will be the next theme, and then the following week after that, is how do you split, as you can see in how the Female Hustler is, she has the Instagram graphics a week, so 3 lines essentially, the way they appear on the app. And then I set another 15 to represent the next week's theme. So I ended up deciding to go with red. I'm not 100% sold on this one yet. Again, it tested well with my test audience that I had sent the graphic to. We'll see how that goes in the following weeks before I roll out my Instagram. So I think for now, I'm going to use the Auditorium as my main kinda, and then the Broken Pencil. Again, not sold completely on the Broken Pencil, so I actually came up with a couple other ones, kind of a teamwork one where everybody's hands are on each other. And then I also came up with another one where, you kind of had the younger person with the older hand slightly represented mentoring, which is a huge theme I'm going to discuss as this business kicks off and my content starts to really roll out on social media. I will constantly come back to mentoring, because aspiring young professionals, one of the critical things you have to do in your very first, not necessarily first year. Peer mentors are extremely effective if you have good peer mentors, but mentoring is something that you're going to be giving and receiving through your entire career that's going to impact your success for sure. So I wanted to kind of have these images that represent. So my husband is an aspiring photographer, so I think we'll go out and actually work on a great deal of the content ourselves and start to use all our own photographs instead of using stock photographs from either Adobe Spark or some of the other free software sites, photo upload sites that you can get a bunch of graphics from. So once I picked my color scheme and font, the next big one was to continue to work on my content. So the first theme in my book, Work Lessons 101, is called Before You Start. And then the 15 chapters which are within the theme, which are on the screen right now, are going to represent weekly themes that I'm going to walk through with mini work lessons on the content of the Instagram. So I actually combined how to write an effective resume and how to prepare for an interview into one theme, just because they complement each other so strongly. So essentially, the first theme worked out to 14 weeks worth of content. So this past week, I actually went through the first draft of all the work lessons I want to share. So I need to edit that this following week. Start to clean it up and then start to put it on the infographics. Another thing I have to do next week is to start to research all the hashtags that I want to roll each one of them out. So, and kind of like the little description on how to introduce the actual work lesson. The thing with quotes or content just on a simple infographic is it can be very vague. And maybe not very practical or useful. So I'm kind of using the lesson as a bit of a hook. So you actually read the paragraph underneath the infographic, so where's the learning is, and then hopefully that can start to, as people in the audience grow, people can start to comment and start to ask questions, and there can be some form of a forum discussion that occurs where more learning, more sharing, and people's kind of practical examples of the theme in question start to get discussed. That is ultimately the goal of each theme. So as you can see, you can kind of get a glimpse of the first 14 weeks of content that are going to go up on the Instagram account. And last but not least, this week I got to get in some blog ideas down on paper. So I got 38 actually in my first couple brainstorming sessions. Some ideas. Like I kind of came up with the Power of series, which is something like the power of silence, the power of resilience, the power of curiosity, the power of action, the power of your coworkers. Maybe a potential top 10 series. Top 10 books that have impacted my career and why. 10 signs you're an effective employee, 10 signs you have an effective mentor, just some tips and a simple blog that can help young aspiring professionals with things like that. So as you can see on the screen, there's a bunch of different ones. So next week I will have to go through my 14 weeks of Instagram content and see if any of these kind of gravitate to similar themes. By no means do I need to have a blog idea link with the 12 mini work lessons that I'm going to throw on Instagram. They can stand separately and alone, because the most important part of all of this is to obviously build your career and to learn. So learning and sharing being the biggest things. So I don't see that so far as a big deal. So I will start to write some of them hopefully next week as I get into my second draft of my 12 weeks of my Instagram content. I also edited my 2 first journey videos. A lot of lessons there. I did it on my Mac on iMovie, so that was very useful. Anyways, that is this week's episode of Building a Brand. Thank you all again for listening, and please tune in next week. Also, just a friendly reminder to please send me Q&As if you have any questions or concerns with your career. I might be able to help, so please write to me. Thank you.